It's Saturday the 18th of January. I'm Ciara Evans, and this was a week that saw Chancellor Rachel Reeves under pressure. A Gaza ceasefire deal inched closer. Joe Biden sign off from the Oval Office, and LA struggling with the aftermath of the wildfires.
Grab a cup of something hot, put up your feet, and get up to speed on the 7 biggest stories of the week. This is the Standout 7 from the Smart 7.
It's news,
but not the news.
This week saw intense pressure on Chancellor Rachel Reeves as the pound hit a 14-month low, while UK borrowing costs hit their highest level in 16 years. Ever since the budget at the end of October, there's been a storm of criticism over tax changes, the winter fuel allowance and the worrying absence of any positive signs of growth. Chancellor Rachel Reeves was also under fire for taking a trip to Beijing during the economic turmoil, although she claims she made deals worth £600 million to the UK over the next 5 years. British Chambers of Commerce Director General Siobhan Haviland said action needs to be taken.
We don't see recession as an issue. We forecast about 1.3% growth for this year, but we do need to see quick action. And of course, action is important, and that drives confidence.
The Chancellor was a topic for discussion at Keir Starmer's Monday press conference on AI, but he expressed confidence in her, and Downing Street later issued a statement in support of Reeves. Paul Johnson of the Institute of Fiscal Studies said that the American economy and anxiety around Trump are largely to blame.
In the short run, honestly, there's not an enormous amount that she can do. These stories, these things in the markets happen week by week, and government economic policy has impacts at best year by year.
While the Chancellor didn't help matters with the timing of a trade mission to China, she was back in the Commons on Tuesday to defend herself and push back on calls for her resignation. She pointed out that the UK is not alone in experiencing rising costs, as the global economy waits nervously to see what impact a new Donald Trump US government will have. Indications that he may not immediately launch into a tariff war seemed to calm markets somewhat on Tuesday. Reeves said that the current conditions only emphasise the need for growth.
The economic headwinds that we face are a reminder that we should, indeed we must, go further and faster in our plan to kickstart economic growth that plunged under the last government. By bringing stability to the public finances after years of instability under the party opposite.
There was good economic news on Wednesday as the rate of inflation dipped slightly from 2.6% in November to 2.5% in December. The figures also showed a drop in core inflation and service price inflation, and the numbers will be a big relief to Chancellor Rachel Reeves. It clears the way for another Bank of England rate cut, which should help to drive the growth that the Labour government desperately wants to see. It didn't sound like Tory leader Kemi Badenoch was in a celebratory mood, though, at Prime Minister's Question Time.
The Prime Minister may try to blame his inheritance or blame global factors, but why should anyone trust a word he says over the businesses who are saying that his budget means fewer jobs, lower growth and higher borrowing costs?
Prime Minister Keir Starmer seems to have grown tired of his new opponent in the Commons, and he was particularly scathing about the latest round of attacks on the economy from the Tory leader.
The advantage, I suppose, of the Leader of the Opposition having no policies is that they can say completely contradictory things without breaching their policy. But they want the benefits of the budget, but none of the tough measures.
The intense political pressure created by Elon Musk's tweet storm over grooming gangs appeared to pay off on Thursday, as Home Secretary Yvette Cooper announced a raft of new measures aimed at addressing the issue. She's set to introduce a national review over 3 months on the scale of grooming gangs. She will be conducted by Louise Casey, who has already completed a report on Rotterdam. The focus will be on the cultural and societal drivers for these offences, and will also include 5 pilot investigations in local areas, including Oldham.
Victims were ignored, perpetrators were left unpunished, and too many people looked the other way. And even when these shocking crimes were brought to light, the resulting reports were too often left on the shelf as their recommendations gathered dust. So under this government, that has changed.
The Tories, who have been calling for a new national inquiry, even though they failed to implement any of the recommendations of the 22 report, weren't happy. Shadow Home Secretary Chris Phillips said more needs to be done.
What the Home Secretary has announced today is totally inadequate. It will only cover a fraction of the towns affected, and it appears these inquiries will not have the legal powers they need. That is why we need a proper, full, national public inquiry.
Thursday also saw new Tory leader Kemi Badenoch make her first major speech of 2025. She's trying to reset public relationship with the Tories after Reform has experienced a membership surge and has passed out the Tory party in the latest post-election polling. Badenoch criticised her own party for various mistakes, including leaving the EU EU without a growth plan, obsessing over immigration numbers and promising net zero emissions by 2050 without a clear plan. She didn't point fingers at who she felt was responsible, but she wasn't shy about criticising Labour's record on the economy and referred to Chancellor Rachel Reeves as Keir Starmer's woman problem. She also made a hopeful promise.
The Conservative Party is under new leadership. From now on, we are going to be telling the British people the truth about the problems we face, and the truth about the actions we must take to get our country out of this mess.
This week saw hopes of a ceasefire deal in Gaza inching closer as all sides appeared to have come to an agreement. But as always in these matters, it took considerable manoeuvring before a final deal was acceptable to all sides. The proposal deal has been negotiated in Doha and details of the deal emerged on Tuesday, with 33 Israeli hostages due to be released by Hamas in return for the release of 1,000 Palestinian prisoners. A phased pullback of Israeli troops would follow, along with new security arrangements and the chance for residents to return to their homes, while more aid will flow into the Gaza Strip. Outgoing US Secretary of State Anthony Blinken says that even a ceasefire won't solve the ongoing issues.
We assess that Hamas has recruited almost as many new militants as it has lost. That is a recipe for an enduring insurgency and perpetual war. The longer the war goes on, the worse the humanitarian situation gets in Gaza.
Israeli military spokesperson David Mencer was sounding a more positive note from the Israeli side, saying the ongoing military offensive has left Hamas with no choice.
It's the efforts which Israel has made to push back Hamas and taking out Hamas's leadership. This is what has pushed Hamas to, come to a deal.
On Wednesday, after 15 months of conflict in Gaza sparked by the Hamas attacks on Israel on October 7th, there was finally good news. The Prime Minister of Qatar, Mohammed bin Abdulrahman Al Thani, made the announcement at 7 p.m. on Wednesday evening, and there'll be a formal ceasefire between Hamas and Israel.
With the approval of both sides, in order to finalise all executive measures for tonight, and after that, the Israeli government will be taking the internal measures, after which the agreement will enter into effect on Sunday, January 19th.
Donald Trump was quick to claim credit, but the deal will come into effect on January 19th, the day before he takes over. And current US President Joe Biden held a press conference to ensure that his own place in history was secured. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer welcomed the deal and emphasised the need for a huge surge in aid. And Tess Ingram from UNICEF says the sooner the ceasefire starts, the better.
For the children in Gaza, it's an unfathomable reality. So every day that goes on, we see more children being killed in this war, and that's why this ceasefire is so imperative as soon as possible.
Things didn't go smoothly, however, as at least 80 people were killed in Gaza on Thursday by Israeli airstrikes almost immediately after plans for the ceasefire were announced. The pause in fighting is supposed to begin on Sunday, but the Israeli War Cabinet delayed its vote as National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir threatened to resign if they voted in favour of the deal. The prospect of a move to end the ongoing conflict had been widely welcomed, with UK PM Keir Starmer taking time out to visit to Kyiv on Thursday to emphasise the importance of getting the deal across the line.
The ceasefire is very welcome. It'll be a huge relief to hostages and their families. And this must be used, obviously, to get through the various stages, but also as a path to a lasting peace.
Prime Minister Netanyahu said early on Friday that he was now happy with the hostage deal, although it's not clear what the issue was. Late on Thursday, Israeli government spokesperson David Mencer was blaming Hamas for the delay.
Hamas have reneged on this hostage release agreement and has created a last-minute crisis in an effort to extort last-minute concessions.
Tuesday saw Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov hold his annual press conference in Moscow. He began by praising Donald Trump's recently stated views on the conflict in Ukraine, which saw the incoming US president blame Joe Biden and NATO for provoking Russia. Lavrov also praised comments from Trump's pick for National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, who has already conceded that Ukraine can't expect to drive Russian forces from every inch of Ukrainian soil. The Russians certainly appear open to the idea of engaging in talks with Trump.
When President Trump, when he becomes president and takes office, comes up with his clear position on Ukrainian matters. We definitely will study and entertain that.
The tone and the reaction to Trump from Moscow is not unexpected, but it will cause major concern in Ukraine. It's also markedly different from the defiant tone outgoing US President Joe Biden took in his final press conference on foreign policy.
When Putin invaded Ukraine, he thought he'd conquer Kyiv in a matter of days. But the truth is, since that war began, I'm the only one that stood in the center of Kyiv, not him. Putin never had.
Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk made dramatic allegations against Russia at a press conference on Wednesday. He claims that Vladimir Putin has been plotting a wave of firebomb attacks designed to bring down planes in mid-flight around the world. The summer did see a series of incendiary parcel incidents at airports in the UK, Germany and Poland, and Tusk says they were part of a larger plot which could potentially have included attacks within the USA. American intelligence sources are believed to have uncovered the plot and notified their European allies, and Tusk says these were acts of terror.
Some acts of sabotage or preparations for diversion were very dramatic. I will not go into details, but I can confirm the validity of these fears, that Russia was planning acts of air terror, and not only against Poland, but against airlines all over the world.
UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer travelled to Kyiv early on Thursday morning in a bid to shore up support for Ukraine. He came bearing a proposed 100-year friendship agreement that will see the UK support Ukraine beyond this terrible war, and warned that Putin shows no sign of wanting to stop his terrible aggression. That point turned out to be very accurate, as a Russian drone buzzed the presidential palace during the meeting, triggering air defences. President Zelensky was keen to warn that Putin's ambitions won't stop with Ukraine.
I think the West does not understand one simple thing. Apart from countries whose history is quite similar to ours, the rest do not understand that Putin will go further.
This week saw the countdown clock tick faster as we approach Donald Trump's inauguration on Monday. As he prepares to take office for the second time, the president-elect seems fixated on one thing: purchasing Greenland. The autonomous Danish territory has been of strategic interest to the US for centuries, but Greenlandic PM Mute Borup Agidi has long asserted that Greenlanders want independence, and in a press conference on Saturday, he called for a meeting with Trump.
We are ready to talk to Trump. I think we are both ready to increase our dialogue and reach out, and therefore also talk about the things that bring us together in the world we live in.
Trump also had a call with Danish PM Mette Frederiksen this week, and she told the incoming president that it would be up to the people of Greenland to decide their fate. Donald will officially be inaugurated as the 47th president of the United States on Monday, the 20th of January, at a ceremony due to be attended by a multitude of tech billionaires, including Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg. There's also a seat reserved for the CEO of TikTok, Xu Zichu, as it looks increasingly likely that Trump will find a way around the proposed US ban of the Chinese-owned platform. In advance of the chaos that will follow, his wife Melania was chatting this week to Fox News about her plans for her second term as First Lady. She says she'll be bringing back her widely mocked Be Best campaign, and Amazon are busy making a documentary about her, which she is also listed as a producer on, that will drop later this year. She says she's planning to live full-time in the White House, and that she's quite prepared to stand up to her husband if she doesn't agree with him.
I'm standing on my own 2 feet, independent. I have my own thoughts. I don't always agree what my husband is saying or doing. I gave him my advice, and sometimes he listens, sometimes he doesn't, and that's okay.
This week also saw US President Joe Biden bid farewell to the nation, and he used his final Oval Office speech to issue a stark warning about the risks that lie ahead, driven by social media and misinformation.
Americans are being buried under an avalanche of misinformation and disinformation, enabling the abuse of power. The free press is crumbling. Editors are disappearing. Social media is giving up on fact-checking. The truth is smothered by lies told for power and for profit.
And as he sat down with Lawrence O'Donnell of MSNBC to reflect on his 50 years in public service, he reiterated that America is facing serious challenges.
I really am concerned about how fragile democracy is. That sounds corny, but I mean, I really am concerned, because you've heard me say it 100 times. I really think we're at an inflection point in history here. We're unrelated to any particular leader. Things are going to change drastically.
Still to come, the Standout 7 wildfires rage on in California, and we pay tribute to 2 icons who passed this week.
Right after this. Welcome back.
This week saw Los Angeles firefighters continue to battle blazes across the city. At least 25 people are known to have died, but emergency services expect more bodies will be found as the process of clearing the sites begins. The Palisades fire remains the largest, but it is gradually being contained as weather conditions and wind gradually decreased across the week. Former California Governor Jerry Brown says this crisis is a stark reminder of the realities of climate change.
In the next 4 years, we're going to see the reduction to absurdity of the proposition that climate change is a hoax, that it's moving slowly. All of that are going to be demonstrably absurd.
Tens of thousands of people have been evacuated and millions of dollars have begun rolling in for the fire relief fund, including $2.5 million from Beyonce, whose mother's Malibu house was destroyed. Countries across the world have been offering support and firefighting personnel, but there was also an unexpected offer from embattled Ukrainian President Zelensky.
Today, I instructed Ukraine's Minister of Internal Affairs to prepare for the possibility of the participation of our rescuers in combating the wildfires in California. The situation there is extremely challenging, and Ukrainians can help Americans to protect lives.
Many famous names have lost their homes, including Paris Hilton, Mel Gibson, and reality TV stars Heidi Montag and Spencer Pratt. They spoke to Good Morning America and said it's been really hard to get life for their family back on track.
It's a place that you love, and to have that be gone is a really difficult concept to continue to daily deal with.
I feel like a ghost. I don't have a single photo now before an iPhone existed. They're all gone.
It may be that someone got Prime Minister Keir Starmer a ChatGPT subscription for Christmas, because Monday saw him declare that the UK is all in on AI. He said the technology can turbocharge Labour's plan for change and that it may have a significant role to play in the public service. He's created a new AI Opportunities Action Plan, which has already seen £14 billion worth of investment from leading tech firms and will help to create over 13,000 jobs. Starmer believes AI can be a real point of difference in the UK.
Government has a responsibility to make it work for working people. And the opportunities of this technology, they're not just going to somehow fall into our lap. This is the global race of our lives.
He's promised the UK will lead by applying AI technology in hospitals and even to things like speed cameras and pothole detection. Vanna Karagani is the former head of the Office for AI, and she says it has potential to revolutionise public services.
The action plan covers kind of three main areas. One is around the fundamentals of AI. Then there is a whole section about the adoption of AI. That definitely is looking at the provision of public sector services based on AI.
Wednesday saw the death of singer and TV star Linda Nolan at just 65 years of age following a long battle with cancer. She first rose to fame in the 70s alongside her sisters as the Nolans. They were championed by Cliff Richard on his TV show and then found themselves touring Europe with Frank Sinatra. They also had a number of top 10 hits, including the iconic I'm in the Mood for Dancing. Linda went on to star in musicals and became a regular on TV show Loose Women, where she documented her battle with cancer, which first got diagnosed in 2005 and then reoccurred in 2017. Tributes flooded in from her fellow Loose Women, her family and the many charities that she raised over £20 million for. Rest in peace, Linda.
What scares me the most, I think, is dying. I mean, I'm not scared of dying. I'm sad that it's going to happen. Let it happen, it's going to happen anyway, so don't go down into the doldrums and think, what am I going to do? Just make time for the people you love.
Thursday saw the death of visionary filmmaker David Lynch at 78 years of age. The genius behind Twin Peaks, Mulholland Drive and Blue Velvet had been diagnosed with emphysema last August and has struggled with his breathing ever since. His unique and distinctive style earned him 3 Best Director Oscar nominations, and he was presented with an honorary Academy Award in 2019. He also won the Palme d'Or for Wild at Heart with Nicolas Cage and Laura Dern. Twin Peaks was a unique piece of television, a precursor to many of today's high-end dramas, and Lynch also appeared as a character in the show. His last role was in Steven Spielberg's 2022 movie Meet the Fabelmans, and Spielberg paid tribute to his fellow director, calling him an original and unique voice. Rest in peace, David.
And so you just stay alert, do your work, don't worry about the world going by. It doesn't mean that you can sit around and not do anything. You've got to get your butt in gear and do it. And don't take no for an answer.
You've been listening to The Smart 7. We'll be back tomorrow at 7 a.m. Hit that follow button and have a great day. Give us 7 minutes, we'll give you the world.